Hello, I'm Michael Higham, and I am in the process of reviewing Persona 5 Royal. I'm currently 50 hours in, and I just finished the 4th Palace, and I'm in the middle of August, and that means there's a lot more game ahead, but I'm going to tell you about my experience so far. A lot of the first 50 hours is Persona 5, and it's going to be very familiar if you have already played the game. But that's also to say that it's still an amazing RPG where style and substance meet together, and the message that it's trying to send are also communicated through its striking visuals and its amazing soundtrack. That's all there, of course, and there's a lot more to dig into, though, as the game goes on. But so far, I have seen a lot of the new content, and I'm going to talk about the new character, Kasumi, because she's kind of a big deal with Royal in terms of how this game is being pushed. And she's one of the exciting additions, but so far, she's kind of been minimal in terms of her impact on the story. Of course, you see her in the opening scene during the casino heist. I'm not going to spoil what palace this is or where in the metaverse it is, but she does have a role in that intro, which means that she's going to be involved later on in the game. You get a little taste of what she's like in the metaverse, but you also have a Confidant route with her. Now, it's only a 5-part Confidant route, so it's a little bit shorter than every other Confidant. And you get to spend time with her in Kichijoji, which is a new area, and you hang out with her. She's very bubbly. She's a top-notch student. More importantly, though, she is a gymnast, and she has high expectations for the school because she's going to Shujin Academy, and she has high expectations for herself. And that comes through in a lot of the new scenes that she's been in so far. But again, nothing dramatic has happened quite yet. But we did get to see a little bit of how she knows Akechi, what she thinks of the Phantom Thieves. Turns out she's kind of a cop so far. I hope she's not at the end. Another new character who I think has made a bigger impact in the front end of the story is Takuto Maruki. And he comes in after the first palace when you boot Kamoshida out of Shujin Academy for being a piece of shit. But he comes in as a school counselor, and he is a perfect thematic fit for Persona 5. Because he is a counselor, he talks a lot about mental health, and he walks the characters through kind of coming to terms with their trauma and trying to overcome that. And it's a very comforting thing to have a character who represents that. And I'm kind of surprised that the original game didn't have that, now that I think about it. He's kind of a klutz himself, he's kind of a goofball, but he has a heart of gold. And his Confidant route is very valuable because with each rank you get extra SP for Joker. Another change of Confidants is Goro Akechi. He's a major character in the original game, but now you have to go out of your way to hang out with him and rank up that Confidant route. I think he's still a cop, but so far in his Confidant route, it's just hanging out with him in Kichijoji, which is kind of nice, but I'm hoping that it evolves later on. It gives a little bit more backstory as to who he is, especially if you've already played the original game. For Confidants as a whole, there's an extra element where the person you just hung out with might call you right after hanging out, which is a little weird, but you do have some dialogue options in which you can get 2 extra Confidant points so you can level them up faster. Now, I've mentioned Kichijoji a few times, which is a new area in Tokyo you can hang out in, and there's a place called Penguin Sniper, which is a place for you to hang out with your confidants or your party members. And you want to go there because there's darts. Darts is an actual minigame, Yakuza style, where you actually use the motion controls to throw your darts. And you can call people up to do that with them, and what you get out of it is ranking up your baton pass, because there are extra perks this time around for baton pass. And we'll get to the combat mechanics in a minute, but at Penguin Sniper you can also play pool. Pool isn't an active minigame, but there is conversations that happen around scenarios in which you decide to play pool. There's also a jazz club, which is a nice, lovely place to hang out. And there's some sweet tunes that play in the background that is also sung by Lin, the singer for Persona 5 soundtrack, which is a nice touch. Now that's a lot of the new stuff on the social sim side of Persona 5 Royal. When it comes to the metaverse and the dungeon crawling and the palaces, there has been some remixing. A lot of the new stuff in the palaces kind of revolve around Joker's new grappling hook. This gets you to different places within the palace, so there are extra rooms, or some rooms have been rearranged to be designed with the grappling hook in mind. Now some palaces have changed more than others. Namely, the 4th palace has a new sequence where you string a lot of the grappling hook points to get to the different areas in that room. And in all of these palaces are 3 will seeds. You want to find these because they give you SP boosts, and when you find all 3 of them, you can convert them into an accessory outside of the palace once you finish it. That recovery in SP also helps you keep going in palaces so you can have an easier time to do one-day dungeon runs and be a little bit more efficient as you explore them. It's not just the design of the palaces that have changed, bosses have new phases as well. The most memorable change has been in the second palace, where the boss spawned different versions of himself that are tuned to different elemental affinities. And with the game's combat system being all about exploiting elemental weaknesses, the boss also exploits your elemental weaknesses, so there's a lot of good back and forth while you're trying to attack the main boss, and kind of makes you think about the combat a little bit differently, especially as a boss battle that is already tough enough as it is. Now, the SMT and Persona combat system has always been about exploiting elemental weaknesses, as I had mentioned before, but there are some added layers this time around in P5R. One of them is the explodey shadows. What are they called? Distorted shadows. And if you kill them before they can act, then they cause area of effect damage on the rest of the enemies, which could get you out of a bind pretty quick. They show up every now and then, but if you're not able to kill them, they do lay on a lot of damage, so be careful when they show up. Your personas also have what are called traits, which act as perks when you fuse them in the Velvet Room. You can choose to have like your magic attacks do more damage, or have a higher chance of inflicting a status effect on enemies, or to protect yourself from a status effect. There's a whole bunch of options out there, so it's a little twist on your personas and customizing them in a way that you want. And as you've probably seen in the trailers, Persona 5 Royal has what are called Showtime attacks, which are ridiculous. They're absolutely adorable most of the time, and they lay on a lot of damage. These unlock throughout the story, and they are partner attacks, and there are little scenes where like, hey, yo, Yusuke, you wanna team up? I got this new move, and then Yusuke's like, oh yeah, shit, I'm down, and then
That's kind of how it goes.
So the next time you go into the metaverse, they will make mention of it, and then you can pull it off when one of the partners are in the party. So they don't both need to be in the party for you to do that Showtime attack. You just hit the touchpad in that clutch moment when either an enemy is low on health or one of your teammates is low on health, and then you will see this utterly ridiculous sequence of events. After the first time you see it, you can skip it though, because they do take a little bit of a long time, but I do appreciate that they are there. Because the combat revolves around exploiting elemental weaknesses, you're going to be casting a lot of spells, and P5R gives you a lot more opportunities to keep your SP topped off. As I'd mentioned earlier, raising your Confidant level with Maruki gives you extra SP for Joker, and finding Will Seeds in Palaces will give you slight recovery boosts. And also, ranking up your baton pass to rank 3 means you get an SP boost when you do pass the baton to that character. And there's a meat shop in Kichijoji, so get your meats. That boy got some meat! On Sunday nights only, get your meat. Get your meat Sunday night, Kichijoji. Keep your SP topped off, you know what I'm saying? Another way to keep your SP replenished is through a bunch of new items, and you can buy them from Jose. Now you're probably wondering who he is. He's a little boy who roams around Mementos. When you visit Mementos, you can now collect flowers and you get stamps, which you then cash into him for different perks and items. So if you collect flowers, it works as a currency just for that day that you go into Mementos, and he sells SP items. Very useful ones too. With the stamps that you find in Mementos, you can actually change the rate at which you either earn XP or cash in Mementos, which is super helpful and makes visiting Mementos a little bit more worth it. There's also a few new variables, like I remember going into the 3rd level of Mementos and it was very dark and you couldn't see anything, so it's a little bit of a new twist. And also there's a new Mementos song. I'm not deep enough in Mementos quite yet to know if there's any other songs, but I'm excited to hear something other than da 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 da, you know what I'm saying? Mementos isn't the only place that has new music. New music is littered throughout the game, and I don't have many hot takes, but I'm gonna say that the new ambush battle theme, Takeover, is better than Last Surprise. Sorry? I will say that Takeover is a lot more emphatic, and it feels like there's a little bit more momentum building up going into battle when that theme plays. But also, you know, going into a battle without ambushing the shadow isn't so bad after all, because you get to hear Last Surprise again. So it's a nice touch, so you don't have to ambush every enemy. You do get a little bit of a consolation prize there. So those are the big changes that I've seen so far in my 50 hours with Persona 5 Royal. There's a lot more that I haven't covered, a lot more minute details that kind of make the overall experience a lot more enjoyable. And it makes the moment to moment a little bit more dynamic because of how many more systems are layered on top of what was already there with Persona 5. Of course, there's a lot more I haven't seen, like the new palace, or what the new semester is going to add, or how the end of the game may have changed in P5R. Those are the things that are going to determine whether or not I feel Persona 5 Royal is the definitive version of the game. I have a lot more work ahead of me and so much more of the game to play, but I am going to take a page out of Persona 5's book and take my time. And when I do finish the game, you can expect my full final review here on GameSpot.